Steve, you were mentioning earlier that there's a big difference in negotiations whenever you're doing solar versus maybe a well site. Uh, Maybe talk more a little bit about that and some of the other differences you see between renewables and oil and gas land work.
For renewables, I think it's a site issue, right? So generational farmer has this 800 acres in his family for 250 years. Grandpa farmed it, great grandpa farmed it, dad farmed it. I'm now farming it, and my kids are going to farm it. And you want to come in and you want to take half of that to put these solar panels for 30 years. So I think it's a site issue for a lot of folks. Whereas if you drill a well or you put me in a unit and you sign me to a non-surface clause, I don't have to see it. It could be across the hill. I still get money from it. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to give up anything to be a part of that. But for this, you're asking me to physically give something up that I've owned or it's been in my family for this long for you to utilize that property. And I'm now only left with this amount of land to farm, to do whatever with. You on the flip side of that, you do have to put a monetary value to it, right? So in a majority of time, farmers are very protective of the land, but they're very, they put a monetary value per acre of what crops coming off, what livestock is there, how much money they can make. So if you can equate that to them of this is an output per acre that you're going to see on a yearly basis for this amount of time, that's where I think you come more to the middle instead of, hell no, I'm not going to have that on my property. It has to be an open-minded farmer, open-minded landowner who sees that the bottom line.
We could interject real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you are right. I see that a lot, but we always are trying to also find when you identify these areas, they have to be in ideal conditions. I mean, not too far from substations and whatnot. But what you really would, because farmers love their property, anyone loves their property, but a farmer, like you said, it's generational. If you have a farmer that's maybe the kids have moved on, they went to college, they didn't want to come back and farm, they want to retire to Florida, play golf and croquet every day. That's the people that we try to find. And in doing our research online, using county records and tax assessment, you can almost find who those people are because a lot of these farmers, it'll be surrounded by Miller, Yoder, and then LLK Trust. And you're like, all right, that trust, I'm going to assume you don't know until you get into the weeds and contact people, but that's where I would start before a major unit saying, I bet that it's in a trust and they're sharecropping in order to benefit the rest of the family because no one wanted the farm anymore. So that's a more attractive site. But that's a way that we use our land work background to help identify grade A sites versus just, throwing a dart at a wall on a map of places near a substation or a large transmission line. That's our white whale. Call me Ishmael. Mr. Stetz, if you're nasty.
I agree, Grant Stetz. And I hate to go back to blue and red, but there is a good amount of that out there. And, unfortunately, they've painted this picture of you're either green or you're not green. And each side had to take a side, right? So back to the education, if they would have just educated instead of slammed it down our throats that it has to be this way, I think you may see a different outcome.